Once upon a time, in a big city full of people and houses, lived two poor children named Kai and Gerda. They were not brother and sister, but they loved each other as if they were. Their families lived in two attics right across from each other. In the summertime, they could step from one window to the other just by crossing over the rooftop gutter. Each family had a large wooden box where they grew vegetables and a little rose tree. The rose trees grew splendidly, and the children loved to sit under them and play. One winter day, Kai was looking out his frosty window. Suddenly, a single snowflake grew larger and larger until it turned into a beautiful woman dressed in the finest white gauze, which seemed to be made of millions of starry snowflakes. She was beautiful, but her eyes were restless and wild, and she was made of ice, glittering, dazzling ice. This was the Snow Queen. She beckoned to Kai, but he was frightened and shrank back from the window. Soon after, while Kai was playing with his sled in the great town square, a large white sleigh, driven by the Snow Queen herself, came dashing by. Kai quickly tied his little sled to the back of it, wanting a fun ride. But the sleigh went faster and faster out of the city gates and into the wide, snowy world. The Snow Queen stopped and took Kai into her own sleigh, kissing his forehead. The kiss was as cold as ice. It went straight to his heart, which was already half frozen. He forgot all about little Gerda and his family at home. He thought the Snow Queen was the most perfect and intelligent person he had ever met. They flew higher and higher on a dark, cold cloud towards her palace in the far north. Back in the city, no one knew what had happened to Kai. They searched everywhere, but he was gone. Little Gerda cried for a long time. She knew in her heart that Kai was not gone forever. She believed he was alive somewhere, and she decided she would find him. When spring came, Gerda put on her little red shoes and went down to the river. "Dear river," she said, "have you taken my playmate? I will give you my red shoes if you will give him back to me." She threw her beloved shoes into the water, but the river seemed to push them back to her. So she got into a little boat and floated down the river, calling out for Kai. The river carried her far away, to a beautiful garden where it was always summer. An old woman with a crutch and a large sun hat lived there. She was a sorceress, and she wanted Gerda to stay with her forever. She combed Gerda's hair with a magic comb, and Gerda forgot all about Kai. But one day, Gerda saw a rose on the old woman's hat, and it reminded her of the roses she and Kai had at home. The memories flooded back, and tears streamed down her face. Where her warm tears fell, a rose bush sprang from the ground. Gerda asked the roses, "Have you seen little Kai?" The roses said, "No, we have been in the earth where the dead are, but Kai is not there." Gerda knew then that Kai must be alive. She ran out of the garden and back into the world. It was now autumn. She was barefoot and alone, but her heart was full of hope. She met a friendly crow who told her of a prince who had just married a clever princess. Gerda thought this prince might be Kai. The crow and his sweetheart led her to the palace, but the prince was not Kai. The prince and princess were very kind, though they listened to Gerda's story and gave her warm clothes, boots, and a golden carriage to help her on her journey. As Gerda traveled, her magnificent carriage was attacked by robbers in a great forest. A fierce robber girl took Gerda as her own playmate. The robber girl was wild and unruly, but she had a kind heart underneath. She kept many captured animals, including some wood pigeons and a reindeer from Lapland. One night, the pigeons cooed. We have seen Lil Kai. He was in the Snow Queen's sleigh, heading towards Lapland, where there is always snow and ice. The reindeer, who was named Bay, knew all about Lapland. He told Gerda that the Snow Queen's palace was in Finland, even further north. The robber girl was so moved by Gerda's love for Kai that she decided to help. She untied the reindeer and said, "Go, take the little girl to the Snow Queen's palace and find her friend." She gave Gerda back her warm clothes and some food for the journey. So Gerda and Bay the reindeer traveled north through the cold and across the vast snowfields. They stopped first at the home of a lab woman, Warmed Tim, and gave them a message written on a dried codfish to take to a Finnish woman who lived even further north. The Finnish woman knew all about the Snow Queen. She told Gerda, "The Snow Queen has enchanted Kai with two things, a sliver of a magic mirror in his eye and another in his heart. That is why he sees everything as ugly and feels only cold." Gerda asked the Finnish woman, "Can't you give me something to give me power over it all?" The woman replied, "I can give you no power greater than you have already. Your power is in your pure, innocent heart. It comes from the love you have for Kai. If you cannot reach the Snow Queen's palace and free Kai yourself, then no one can." So Gerda and the reindeer continued their journey. When they finally reached the borders of the Snow Queen's garden of snow, the air was filled with biting snowflakes. These were not ordinary snowflakes. They were the Snow Queen's guards. They took on strange, terrible shapes. Gerda began to say the Lord's Prayer. As she prayed, her breath turned into a legion of little angels who fought the snowflake monsters and protected her. Gerda walked into the vast, empty, icy palace. It was magnificent, but terribly cold. In the center of a frozen lake, she saw Kai. He was pale and almost blue with cold, but he didn't feel it. He was trying to make a word out of sharp pieces of ice. The Snow Queen had told him that if he could spell the word eternity, he would be his own master, but he couldn't do it. Gerda ran to him and threw her arms around his neck. "Kai, dear little Kai, I have found you. At last." But Kai sat still and cold. Gerda began to cry, and her warm tears fell on his chest. They penetrated to his heart, thawing the lump of ice and melting the splinter of the magic mirror within it. Kai looked at her and burst into tears himself. His tears washed the splinter from his eye. He recognized Gerda. "Gerda, dear little Gerda, where have you been so long? And where have I been?" He looked around at the cold, empty holes and shuddered. Gerda laughed and cried with joy. Their happiness was so powerful that the pieces of ice Kai had been playing with danced and formed the word eternity all by themselves. Kai was free. Hand in hand, they walked out of the ice palace. The reindeer was waiting for them, along with his mate. They carried Kai and Gerda south, back towards home. On their way, they met the robber girl, who was on her own adventure. They said a happy goodbye. They met the prince and princess, who were delighted to see them safe. Finally, They reached their own city. Everything was the same, yet different. They walked up the stairs to their attics and saw that they were no longer children, but grown up. The rose trees were in full bloom outside the windows. They sat on their little stools under the roses, holding hands. It was summer, warm and beautiful summer, and their long, cold adventure was now just a story from the past. Thanks for watching our story today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more wonderful fairy tales. See you next time.